Well, we love featuring artists you should know about. Today we're heading to Nashville to chat with singer-songwriter Robert Ross. Robert grew up in Canada, moved to Australia in 2009, where he released his first album, It's Never Too Late. And last year he moved to Nashville to record his second album titled Better With Time. He just released 2 singles off of it last month. We're excited to have Robert Ross on the show. First, Robert, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, Jeff, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, the album is done. You must like Nashville because you're still living there.
Yeah, it's been great. It's a great town to be in. It's there's always something happening here, and it's a heap of fun.
Yeah, it's crazy. Because how did we get a Nashville connection? Did somebody find you? How did it happen?
Well, I've been here several times over the years. I come for a week or two at a time, and then it's just if you want to be in the business these days, it's kind of you have to put your foot in the pond here and make a splash kind of thing. So decided to make the move and jump in. So I was sponsored by my producer to come over, and we took it from there.
Yeah, it's crazy. You grew up in Canada. You served in the Canadian Army for 11 years. You moved to Australia in 2009. You start touring over there some. So when did the music bug come back into your life?
It's always been there. It's just I always say that life gets in the way. So, you talk to most musicians as they're starting out and coming up through life, and they're heavily involved in music, and then something happens in life where you have to go back to the real world kind of thing. And then a little while down the track, you're back into music again. So it's kind of been that way for me throughout the years. And just back before COVID hit, I was back into music full time. And then COVID hit, of course, shut everything down. And then just after COVID cleared up, then back at it again and decided that it's kind of now or never. So made the big move to Nashville.
Yeah, I love the album titles. Never Too Late and Better With Time. It's perfect. So that's classic. I mean, being in Australia during COVID, that had to completely suck. I mean, was that half of your reason to get out of there?
Well, where we lived, it's I didn't really experience COVID that bad as the rest of the world did and as the rest of Australia did, because where I live is up in the far north Queensland, up in the tropics. And as soon as COVID hit, then Australia shut its borders down immediately. And then Queensland shut its borders down to the rest of the states. So we were kind of protected in a bubble. And then Cairns is so far from everything else. It's a fair-sized city, but it's far removed from all the other places. So we're kind of a bubble within a bubble. And we weren't really... We had limitations on what we could do in that, but we had pretty much free roaming range, so it wasn't too bad for us.
Yeah, that's
and down south. Yeah, down South Australia, they had it bad. They were pretty much locked down for 2 years.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, living in Canada, Australia, now you're in Nashville. What's the favorite place you've lived?
Oh, every place that I've lived has something special about it. I was stationed over in Europe for 3.5 years. I lived in Germany, was home for 3.5 years, and so I did a lot of traveling around there. And the history there to me is amazing. Australia, it's summer all year round, so I love that. Nashville, it's the home of country music, so it's where I need to be, and I love it. Where I grew up in Canada, it's country living, a lot of fishing and that. So there's little bits and pieces of everything that I love about different places I've lived.
Yeah, well, it's cool that, I mean, this current album, you worked with award-winning Canadian artist and producer Gil Grand, and you're Canadian. I mean, how did you two guys meet?
Well, it's kind of funny. Gil and I met 30-odd years ago back in Canada, and then he moved to Nashville. He actually had a record company or a record deal way back when, and then so anyway, we kind of lost touch. And then when I moved here in October, I had some friends down from Canada. They were playing at one of the bars here at the Commodore Grill. So I went over to see them, and Gil happened to be there to see them also. So we reconnected that way. and just it took off from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kind of full circle.
The producer that sponsored me to move over here, we did a little bit of work together, cut a couple of songs, and then he's a very talented man and that, but it just wasn't jiving between us. And Gil's been doing a bit of producing, so after a meeting, he said, "Oh, we should catch up and have a chat, and see what's happening in our lives," kind of thing. So I said, "Yeah." So he came over and he said, "I'd love to hear some of your new stuff." So I played a few tunes, and a couple of days later, he calls me up. And he goes, "Hey, listen, I've been thinking about it." And he goes, "I'd really love to produce your next album if you have me." So we had a chat about it and took from there and got a great album out of it. So very, very happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, how hard was it? I mean, moving to Nashville last year, how hard was it to find a place to live?
Not hard at all. Everybody was saying that it was going to take a long time. I have a cousin who lives just an hour and a half south of here, down in Lawrenceburg.
Okay.
And so anyway, when I came over, stayed with her and her husband. We were there for a week and had a place secured.
Oh, wow. So that's good. Wasn't too hard then, so.
No. Been pretty blessed that, things have fallen into place quite easily here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Go check out Robert. He's at robertrossmusic.com. He's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. His brand new single, Drink 'Em Down, is out now. Well, you did something a little different with this album, too. The first album, you wrote all the songs. This one you wrote and co-wrote. Was it you and Gil? Was it somebody else? What?
Yeah, it was Gil and I. 5 of the songs on a new album, Gil co-wrote with me. And, the first album, they were all original songs. And, you mentioned earlier about the titles, the Never Too Late, the first album. I've had people asking for years, when are you going to put out an album? When are you going to put out an album? So, all these years down the track, well, here we go. So it's never too late. And kind of live by that premise that it's never too late to do anything. Until they're throwing that dirt in your face, it's never too late.
Exactly. You got to keep doing, especially do what you love, follow your dreams. That's for sure. I mean, Jack Daniels, Drink 'Em Down, People Like Me. You got a lot of drinking songs, Robert. What do we like to drink?
I'm a Jack man. Gentleman Jack is my poison.
Okay. I saw you drinking a beer in one picture, but I was wondering. I was like, he's got to be a Jack Daniels guy because he's got a song about it. Come on.
Yeah, actually, Jack Daniels presents in a lot of my songs. So if anyone from Jack Daniels out there listening could use a sponsor.
Yeah, look him up. robertrossmusic.com. Get a hold of him, Jack Daniels. He'd be a great spokesman for you, that's for sure. Who played guitar on the first album? It's incredible.
The first album, that was Ryan Davison that played guitar on that. He's from Canada. He's a Grammy Award winner, and he's so many awards behind him, and just an absolute phenomenal guitar player.
Yeah, I know the guitar work on Never Too Late's impressive. I was like, damn, is Robert doing this, or this has to be a studio musician or somebody?
No, I wish I could play guitar that good.
Yeah. What, you just played some shows back in Canada. That had to be cool to be back at home.
Yeah, that was a heap of fun. Did shows in PEI and then in Prince Edward Island, and then up in New Brunswick where I'm from. We had a sold-out show up there, and it was just such a fun crowd. Everybody was just involved, very much involved, singing along, and that's always the fun part of any show, when people start singing your own songs back to you. But we had a great time. Did a bunch of my new stuff, and did some sing-along songs too, like some Johnny Cash and some Charlie Pride. I love throwing songs in from the old greats.
Yeah. Well, and because you have a clip of you playing People Like Me, which is on the new album. It's not even released yet, and people are singing the song with you. I mean, that has to be cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, people are loving that song. I'm looking forward to getting that one released. We're probably going to do that a couple more tracks down. But, we're going to get that one out. People are loving it. It's a great song to play live because everyone's just like, they're so cool. And it has a really catchy hook to it. So, and it comes along a lot. So people, even if you're hearing it for the first time, by the end of the song, you're singing it.
Well, yeah, you got to feel good about it because you're like, man, I got a good song here. If people know it the first time I'm singing it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's catchy.
Kind of, yeah, it was kind of funny. I was just up in New York a couple of weeks ago, and the driver that I had, he looked at me, and of course, cowboy in New York, it kind of stand out a little bit. And so anyway, he was talking about music and that, and he goes, "Yeah, I really don't like country," but he goes, Do you have your new song with you? So I played it for him, and Drinking Down, I played that one for him. And then, halfway through the song, he's singing along, singing the hook to it. So it was good. He's tapping his fingers on the steering wheel, and so that was kind of fun.
Yeah,
I like having songs. I like having songs like that people can relate to and sing along easily.
Yeah, for sure, and that stick in your brain, and they don't forget them, but. You just dropped Mama's Song and Drink 'Em Down, both on July 26th, which I was like, now why did he do this? But you did Mama's Song to like gospel stations and then Drink 'Em Down to country stations.
That's right, yeah. Mama's Song's pretty special to me. It's I came home, I wrote that one back in January, and I just come home, it was cold Sunday morning, and I came home from church and sat down at my desk, and I was looking at a picture of my mom. I have a picture of Mom in the corner of my desk, and I was looking at her, and the song just kind of fell out onto paper. And it got me thinking about the love that I felt coming from her, and remembering her singing, and it was just it was a very special moment to write that song.
Yeah, well, it's a cool story with your mom because she was a big influence on you, but your mom is actually like your biological grandma.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. They basically took me home from the hospital and raised me as their son.
Yeah. When did you find this out, or did you know your whole life?
Yeah. I always knew it all the way along. And my biological mother, I knew she was my mother, but she was like a sister to me. She used to come home and visit. She worked away and that she worked in a factory years and years, a cotton factory years ago, and so she couldn't care for me. So my biological grandmother, she took me in and became my mom.
Yeah, that's awesome. 11 years in the Canadian Army. Well, awesome. Way to go with your service, Robert. Why 11 years? Was that because over here, if you do 20, you can retire?
Yeah, well, it was actually a split service. I was in for 8 years, and then I got out, and then I was out for 8 years and did a number of jobs and things. So, and then I kept on having these dreams, military dreams that were very strong in my head, and decided that I'd go have a chat with them again, and I was working in a steel mill at the time. And I was on night shift, and I came home and checked the mail after I woke up, and there was a letter from Department of National Defense asking if I was interested in coming back. So it was kind of like, well, I'm dreaming about it. I'm getting a letter out of the blue from the Department of National Defense. I better go have a chat with them. So I went in, chatted with them for about an hour and a half, and 2 weeks I was back in again. And I served another 3.5 years after that. And
wow.
then got out. It had changed a lot, and in that time that I was out, the brotherhood wasn't as strong, and that connection wasn't as strong. Things were changing, so I ended up getting back out again. So I had to go in and finish something that was there. So
yeah, wow. Well, and you were older and wiser too.
Yeah, and it's definitely a young man's game.
Yeah, that's for sure. But wow, that's pretty crazy. Well, you and your girlfriend Sue, where did you meet her?
We met in Australia. It's kind of funny because our lives kind of paralleled. She through our whole lives. She's originally from the U.S.
Oh wow!
She grew up in New York. Yeah, she grew up in New York, but she was actually born in a town called New Brunswick in the state of New Jersey. And I'm from a town called New Jersey in the province of New Brunswick. and my mom and dad, my biological grandmother and grandfather, but my mom and dad, they were named Joe and Betty, and her parents were named Joe and Betty. Her best friend growing up was Albert. My best friend growing up was Albert, and we lived in different countries, and we talked about it, vacationing and all this stuff when we were kids, and we've come to the conclusion that we've probably vacationed in the same campgrounds because they used to come up to Canada vacation in the summertime, and we were in the same campgrounds and around the same time. And then she moved to Australia about 30 years ago, and I moved in 2009. And I was working on a project over in Australia in the oil and gas fly-in, fly-out project, and we were working for the same company in Australia. She's a marine scientist, and so she was working downstream on the project, and I was working upstream in construction. And we still hadn't met there, but place in Cairns, live in a 4.5-star resort there, and I had a unit there, and she had a unit, and some of her friends are my friends, and that's how we ended up meeting.
Wow. That's crazy. How mind-blowing was that when you guys started talking to each other and piecing all this together?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty wild. It's just, some things are meant to be, and some things take longer getting there than others.
Yeah.
I keep telling her she could have come along, 20 years earlier. Would have made life a little easier.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is crazy. But, man, looking at your guys' pictures, you two love to travel. You guys have been everywhere.
Yeah, we do a lot of traveling. Actually, Sue's leaving in a week and a half. She's heading over to Italy for a month, and then they're doing I'm not going with her this time on that one. There's a group of our friends that are going, and they're going to be hiking through the Dolomites and touring around Italy, and then they're going to be on a tall ship for 10 days, I think it is, and then coming back, and then I'm heading up to Canada again in September, and going to be up there for a couple of weeks, and then back here. We're going to be in the Dominican Republic in October, and then we're heading back to Australia in December for 3 months.
Wow. Busy few months coming ahead for Robert.
It is, yeah.
Oh, man. Go and check him out. He's at robertrossmusic.com. He's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Go check out his brand new single, Drink 'Em Down, and also Mama's Song are both out now. Well, when is Better With Time? You said you had the hard copies. I think you can buy it on your website. When is it coming out?
Yeah.
When's the release?
It's available now to purchase, but I'm not going to be releasing the album till next year. So there'll be a few singles released off of this, and then do an album release after that.
Okay.
And but the album is available for purchase. You can get it on the website. You can send me a message through the social media things, and I'll respond that way and mail one out to you. If you want a physical copy, a signed copy, I can mail one out. So yeah, a bunch of different ways that you can get it.
Yeah, because you can't listen to it on Spotify yet, but if you go to robertrossmusic.com, it's on there. You can get 30-second previews of each song, and then, yeah, like Robert said, send him a message, and you can get a hard copy of the CD, because he's got them in hand, so that's pretty sweet.
I do. Yeah, and there's a lot of people that still love to have the physical copy, the disc, something you can hold in your hand. And then, I always throw a little note on there, sign it, and people seem to love to do that, have that.
Well, yeah, and it's good to have them when you're playing shows. Get something to...
Yeah, absolutely.
Something to sell to the fans. Well, Drink 'Em Down, tell us, it's self-explanatory, but tell us where you got inspired with this song.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because with that song, there's someone said to me a long time ago, and I know of a few people that it's happened to, that they come home and catch their significant other cheating on them in their home, and that thought has always niggled in the back of my brain, and it was about a couple of years ago I started writing that song, and never quite finished it. And then when Gil and I met up again, we started working on it together, and we finished it. So, he'd bounce ideas off me and back and forth, and then we came up with Drink 'Em Down. So it was, it's a pretty dark subject, but then with the hook line and everything and the beat of the music, it kind of brings it up, takes it out of that dark space and turns it into a party song, fun song.
Yeah, it's a great song. You're going to love it. It's going to be stuck in your head. Drink 'Em Down, Robert Ross. Go check him out, robertrossmusic.com. His new album, Better With Time, you can get it right there on his website before the release date that's coming up next year. Lots of stuff coming from Robert Ross. But, Robert, thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me on social media, Robert Ross Music, on all the different things out there. And, I try to stay in touch with people. If they respond to me, then they take the time to write to me. I take the time to get back to them. I like to stay in touch with people that way.
Yeah, go check him out. Robert Ross Music. Go and find him. He is everywhere. Here's his brand new single, Drink 'Em Down. It's KIX 96.5.